Welcome to the show, IB Nation Sports Talk up and rolling. I've got a fly buzzing around my head
Oh,
just to
that's the
say.
worst.
I know. My wife bought one of these. It's like a thing that you plug into the wall. It's not a zapper, but it's like a purple light thing, and it attracts them. And we've had fewer flies because the summer, man, it gets crazy out here where we live out the country.
In the country.
And we haven't had that many flies since she put it in, but there's been this one that has somehow managed to follow me around the house all day today. So got that going for me. I'm Sean Stiers. He's Vince D'Addario. This has kind of turned into the week of Vince here on the show.
Might as well go out of summer strong. You know what I mean? This is my last full week of summer. So might as well go out with a bang. Just be on every show possible. That's the way I look at it.
Why not? Glad to have everybody here today. We got a lot of good questions for We In, We Out. Hit the like button as you come in. As always, tonight, a little gentle reminder for you. We were just talking backstage before we started up. I kind of got caught off guard watching the USA men's basketball comeback against Serbia. The old Joker was looking like he was going to lead Serbia to a full throttle win over Team USA. And then I flipped it over. Jesse texted me. He was kind of, ready to cash it in. And then all of a sudden, I flip over, USA takes off. I've got to admit, it was an exciting comeback, obviously. And we've seen, it's been crazy how many comebacks we've seen for the USA. You like the men's basketball, but over on the track the last couple days, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, the men's 400 and then the 1500 with Hawker and Nagoose the day before that. And it's been a good comeback last few days.
It has, and they've all ended up in, USA golds, or at least the attempt for a USA gold if we're referring to basketball. So this is the first men's game that I've watched in the Olympics, to be honest with you. And you know what stood out to me, Sean Stiers? Can you even venture a guess as to
I'm going to guess it's not a positive note.
No, it is. It is a positive note.
Okay.
But you're not going to. I really like their uniforms.
Oh, I was really taking note of the white on white with the blue trim.
I dig it.
Numbers.
I really, really liked them.
Do look pretty good.
I think they're pretty cool, man.
I thought so too. I thought it was a really nice, clean look. I
think white on white, iced out stuff, like it's growing on me. You know what I mean? And I like that look. And it was a very clean look for Team USA. So there you go. There's my positive.
USMA 87 is stirring it up. He said that Jesse was confused earlier this week because you actually did 2 shows in a row.
See, somebody needs to learn how not to throw shade when I'm doing him a favor.
I know. Vince is pitching in, helping out right now because Jesse's still got power outage, and I guess he's got some work thing going on. So they stayed in a hotel last night. So,
2 different occasions this week. It's last second. Hey, can you help us out? Yeah, man, of course. I got your back, Jess. No problem.
Always appreciated.
And then he's throwing shade at me. Although I think USMA 87 is trying to stir the pot a little bit.
He might be.
He
might be.
Just saying. Jesse and I had a great conversation earlier today.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, we did. It was fun.
Good. Come on, fly. Get out of here.
Shoot, fly, shoot.
This is going to be one of those days. I did a little bit more I was doing some digging on this whole. We were talking about the Sarah Hildebrandt opponent who didn't make weight yesterday. I guess she was a full 6 pounds overweight.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't 100 grams.
The night before. Well, this was the night before.
Gotcha.
So this was, because what they do is day of the competition, like the first, because it's each of these weight classes, it's a 2-day tournament.
Like 2, if you win them all, it's 2 one day and then 1 the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And so she made weight the first day. She wrestled 3 matches. And then that night she was 6 pounds overweight. And then they made her stay up all night trying to cut weight, and she got down to 100 grams. But I'm sorry, like dehydration, whatever else, like they were trying to claim that she had a few, drank some fluids during the day and stuff like that. If you wrestle 3 matches
and gain 6 pounds,
like she had, like, it's literally at that point, it's what it's just a simple math. It's like what you put in versus what's coming out. It sounds like she probably gorged herself, again, having been through this stuff before myself. It's like, sounds like she overgorged herself and then just couldn't get any of it out when it was all.
Good Lord. Well, it also feels,
because again, if she wrestled 6 matches and she's still 6 pounds over, that's probably means she put 10 pounds of something between fluids and food into her body.
And that's the thing. So I also feel like maybe she had cut way too much weight and her body was just like telling her, like, okay, this is where you're supposed to be.
See, and this is the other thing, though, too, that I had forgotten about. But, a few years back, I don't know if you remember this, the International Olympic Committee was going to eliminate wrestling from the Olympics. They were going to do away with it because there wasn't, they didn't think that there was enough interest. And there was this big outcry between the U.S. and around the world because, if you're an amateur wrestler, the Olympics is your pinnacle.
That's the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where else are you going to go? And so they kept the Olympics, but what they did, like in the World Championships and all these other international events, there are still 10 weight classes for, like most of the time. But for the Olympics, what they did was cut it down to 6 weight classes.
Oh, wow.
So you've got a lot of, so there's always cutting weight going on, obviously, in wrestling, but you've got even more now because of the fact that you've got fewer weight classes for these people to compete in. So I think that, because like they did say she is typically, I think, like a 53 or 55 kilogram, or, something like that. So, like that's anywhere 8 to 10 or 12 extra pounds that she's got to cut. So
that's a lot, man.
Yeah. But 6 pounds overweight the night before and then staying up all night to try to cut it.
Did you ever find out if they actually did all that crazy stuff to try to get her to cut weight, like taking blood out of her body and all that?
I don't know. But I do know that, the stuff that I saw, she was up all night, like doing, between, like running and exercise and,
so even if she made weight,
if
she made weight, you think she's going to be in any kind of shape to win a gold medal against one of the best wrestlers in the world?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get dominated because you're going to have no energy left.
Right.
At least that would be my thought. I mean, all we hear about.
Well, if you're up all night trying to, trying to lose 6 pounds.
And, all you ever hear is the best way to recover is sleep. You know what I mean? From one day to the next and being, fresh and all that.
Yeah.
And she's up all night. Like, you were going to lose.
Yeah. I mean, it's not uncut. I remember it was like the very first varsity experience I had my sophomore year. The guy in front of me was injured. And so like we were going to, for a meet the next day. So he wasn't going to get to wrestle. And like, there wasn't going to be, I was like regular JV guy. There wasn't going to be a JV match that day. And I was 6 pounds over after practice that night. And there's a meet the next day, so I go home and I do my regular, run 2 or 3 miles, get up, and literally, I don't remember what it was the next morning, but I was still a couple pounds over and I'm like doing sit-ups, on the bus on this hour and a half, bus ride to where we were going, get there. And I'm still like a half pound. And it's like literally go out, run for about 15 minutes around the gym, that kind of stuff. So
couldn't do any of that, man. That's craziness.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh, you wrestlers. I tell you what.
But it still blows. It's freaking Olympics.
Yeah.
And then not only was she overweight, because she didn't make that second weigh-in, she, she was going to wrestle for a gold medal. So she, had she made weight, she was going to get either a gold or a silver at worst. They dropped her all the way to last place. Didn't even give her any kind of bronze medal.
Well, and then I saw there was 4 people on the medal stand. So,
well, the other thing that, like, watching some of the matches, and I didn't realize they did this either. What they do, like Sarah Hildebrandt, for example, won 3 matches to get to the championship. Okay. So what they do is all 3 people that Hildebrandt beat along the way go into this little round robin thing, because the gold medal winner beat them, and then the winner of that 3-person round robin gets a bronze. So they actually award 2 bronzes, because like
Interesting.
they give one to the regular, like if you lose in the semifinal,
Sure.
then you come back and win the bronze. And I guess they justify it like you lost to the champion, so you should have a chance to get a bronze as well.
That is the strangest everybody gets a trophy thing I've ever heard.
I knew you'd love that. I had never heard that before.
I've never heard that. I've never heard of that. Well, you lost. Like, that's just wild to me. So, like, if a football team loses to the eventual state champ, you get to go to a different tournament, and maybe you can win that one, and we'll give you a medal. Yeah. Like, that's just weird. I mean, you always hear people say, well, at least we lost to the champ. You know what I mean? Or that kind of a thing. But, like, you actually have a chance to get a medal. Interesting. Right. What's up with this guy?
I don't know what this is about with Kevin Cook, but all right, whatever. Like,
I know this is a buddy of yours, or
I was gonna say,
wow.
Like
Kevin Cook's looking for some pancakes.
I haven't seen anybody like watching Kevin Cook shows, so I don't know how watchable you are there, pal. So
what is that?
I don't even know.
Good
I don't even know what that.
Lord.
I don't know if that's a joke, if he's serious or what. But all right, cool. So you want to get to some questions here?
All right, I'm ready. I didn't peek.
Let's do it.
So I have no idea what we're looking at here.
It's We In, We Out. And of course, the questions for We In, We Out are submitted on the Champions Lounge, the new Champions Lounge at Irish Breakdown. So check it out. Here we go. From Father David. We In, We Out. Bo Collins ends up leading the team in receiving touchdowns.
I'm out. He's not even starting right now. So I don't know that he's going to get an opportunity to lead the team in receiving touchdowns. So if he eventually, I'd have to see what the rotation looks like and all that. But as of right now, I'm out.
I'm going to go out as well. Just because, again, like I'm not confident enough in any one receiver right now to go out on a limb and say he's going to be the guy. We don't know who the guy is going to be at this point. So I've got to be out on that as well. I'm going to say he's going to be one of a handful of guys in the conversation. I would put Collins, Greathouse, maybe even Faison in that conversation for like the 3. Those would be probably my 3 leading candidates at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Thanks for bearing with us, by the way, and getting through the Olympics talk. I mean, it's like,
because it's not a sports talk show, even though that's in the title.
Everybody's so worked up and touchy today, man. Like,
no kidding. It's Thursday, people. Tomorrow's Friday.
Come on, be happy.
Seriously.
Joyous.
Your
country is doing well at the Olympics.
Right. Let's go, man. Let's go.
All right, we in, we out. The combo of tight ends and running backs will have more receiving touchdowns than the wide receiver core.
Wow.
In or out on that?
Oof, I'm way out on that one. I mean, I like the concept, and if this is, I guess, your dad's Notre Dame, then there's a good chance that is the case. But I would say the better question would be the combination of tight ends and running backs will have more receiving touchdowns than the leading touchdown receiver. Then I would have a conversation in my mind about whether I would be in or out, but not the entire wide receiving core.
Yeah. Too many good wide receivers, and I think too many touchdown passes are going to be thrown this year. Like, we might not know who the leader is going to be, but I've got to be out on this as well because of what you said. I just think that the receivers are going to take in a pretty good haul. Themselves this season.
Yep. I think this receiving core is really, really good, and they're deep too. So it might be spread out, but there's going to be some good ones.
We in, we out. By the end of September, we'll be talking about how much we over-panicked about the offensive line in training camp.
Now, that's a really interesting one. And
so too.
4 days ago, I would have absolutely said I was in on this because I had a lot of faith in the Notre Dame offensive line when Charles Jagasaw was a starter, right? When he was healthy and at left tackle. And whatever the decision was going to be made at left guard and right tackle, I felt like there's a bunch of talent there. They're going to be just fine. I'm a little more hesitant now. And just so you are aware, if you don't have the schedule in front of you, the September slate obviously is, or by the end of September, you've got Texas A&M, Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, and Louisville. Those are your 5 games that this question will pertain to, right? I will still be in on this because I do think the offensive line will be fine. And I think the angst that is taking place by most fans is a little unwarranted, but there's nothing else to be angsty about because we don't have any games to watch. So
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it, but I think the offensive line is going to end up being fine.
As you would imagine, there are more offensive line questions that are going to come up in the questions.
I'm here for it.
Just be ready for that. And I'm in as well because, like, when you look at the schedule, no matter what happens, the stiffest test they are going to face is going to be right out of the gate against that Texas A&M defensive line. And so it might not look great that night, and we're definitely going to overreact to that. But then I think that because of the competition for the rest of the month of September, I think we'll largely have forgotten, even if it doesn't look great in week 1. I think we'll have forgotten what that looks like. And really the lead up is going to be probably up until the Florida State game, really kind of till maybe we really know exactly what it is. And there's a chance that it'll look just fine, but again, we just haven't got to see what that looks like in a live situation.
Right. Yep. And we won't until we all see it together in College Station. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. We're all going to witness it together.
See, Andrew was watching basketball as well. Andrew cares about.
Sorry, Andrew. We don't.
Andrew cares about his country.
We don't talk about any of that crap here. Okay. Good job, Andrew. We were watching it as well, which is why we were almost late to the show.
Andrew, very jingoistic. I appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, Vince.
Oh, that's great.
Here's another offensive line question. I told you another one would be coming up. We in or we out? Notre Dame will have at least 2 different left tackles in the first 2 weeks of the season. In or out on that?
Very out on that. There's no chance that happens. Even if the only chance that happens is if Tosh Baker gets hurt.
Exactly.
And I'm not willing to predict injuries. That's not a thing I'm going to do. So this is even if Tosh Baker doesn't play well against Texas A&M, there is 0 chance that he gets benched for Northern Illinois. 0 chance. So they don't trust anybody else as much as they trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And they also know that no matter how bad he plays against Texas A&M, he'll play better against Northern Illinois. So yeah, I'm way out on this one.
Yeah, I'm way out as well. Just ditto what you said. The only chance that happens is if there's an injury in game 1. That's the only way. And it again, like you talk about overreacting to something that you haven't even seen yet.
Right?
Like, are people basing this on seeing Tosh Baker play left tackle 3 years ago?
Right.
Like, is that what this is based on? Like, everyone just assumes he's going to be this colossal failure because of that, because of back-to-back games against Purdue and Wisconsin in 2021. Like, is that where this is coming from?
Right.
I don't. Again, like, I don't think that they would. Father David, yes, Sean, yes, exactly. I don't think that they would have wanted to keep Tosh Baker around this long if they didn't think that he was going to be better. And again, like where Tosh Baker is, I think that I wouldn't say that he could have gone out and started for a Georgia or an Alabama or a Michigan or, whoever the last couple of years. But I think that probably 70 to 75% of most teams and most Power 5 conference teams, Tosh Baker could have gone out and been a starting tackle for over the last couple of years.
Completely agree. And Andrew's worried he's not going to be in shape for the heat in Texas. He's just as in shape as any of the other linemen, man. So
yeah, I mean,
just relax.
Yeah, conditioning. Look, they're all just large offensive linemen,
right?
Is what they are. Like none of them are sprinters. None of them are going to go out and run the 100 for you,
right?
In record time. They're offensive linemen. They're all they're supposed to be big. So
I mean, I could do without the jersey tuck like under the pads with the offensive lineman.
right.
I could definitely do without that.
I mean, trust me,
But
we both saw more than we wanted to see the other day when we
from
were
one guy
there.
in particular, but whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
But at the same time, it's fine. Everybody's operating in the same space at that point, so it's fine.
This is an interesting one, I think, from Shaquille Oatmeal.
I love the avatar, by the way.
With he's got his own logo and the
face.
Whole thing. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Should be out there selling T-shirts or something,
man,
with this. So we in or we out? It's better to be a 10 in fundamentals and a 6 in athleticism versus being a 10 athletically and a 6 in fundamentals.
Ooh. That really that's a conundrum, as they say, and
brain twister.
I'm not sure which way I would go. I think it really all depends on a lot of aspects. What position are we talking about? How old are you? How old are the guys around you? There's just
and this is so open-ended.
Yeah.
Like, is this a reference? Again, like another reference to the offensive line stuff.
I'm sure that it is. Like I feel like this is Coogan versus Rocco right here in a nutshell. Like that's what I feel like this is. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's either that or it goes back to, like the left tackle situation. It's one of those two things, I think.
I mean, if you're talking about like a power forward, I'll take the athleticism over the fundamentals all day long. If you're talking offensive line, I could go the other direction and be just fine, to be perfectly honest with you, and go with the 10 in fundamentals and the 6 in athleticism. Right.
Because, like if I'm looking at this purely from sort of an analytical standpoint, 10 is 100%. So that's an A+ right there. But 6 is going to be a D. So I'm an A+ in one, but a D in the other.
That's a D-, brother.
There you go. So you're talking about A+ and D-. I think that I would still rather have the guy who is perfect in his fundamentals and is at least close in it, because because again, like depending on what position you're talking about, you don't have to be a perfect athlete. Like if you're an offensive lineman, I don't think you have to be a perfect athlete. But
right.
if you have your fundamentals down pat, you're going to be fine as an offensive lineman. You don't have to be a great athlete to be there.
Right. It all varies. It all varies, to be perfectly honest with you. So, I mean, this is a tough question for me to answer without knowing specifically what we're talking about. And so I'm going to I think we explained ourselves fine. I don't know if there is a we or in a we out about this, but I think we explained ourselves all right on it.
I think so.
But I dig it.
I'm kind of upset that Kevin Cook hasn't chimed in and critiqued like anything that we've said.
Like, explain yourself, son.
I know. Maybe that means he's gone.
Maybe he just dropped in to, drop a mic and head out, apparently.
Stubbalicious says, we in, we out on Riley Leonard escaping Texas A&M without injury.
Why would anybody be out on this if you're a Notre Dame fan?
Right.
This is go ahead.
We're going to predict an injury right now.
Yeah. Like, well, why bring him in? I'm glad they brought him in, but he's going to get hurt in the first game. So no, I'm in 100% in. He's going to make it out without an injury. Why would I predict that Riley Leonard is going to get injured? I will never do that. In, just like DJ said.
Absolutely in. And again, like if this is another sort of shade at what's going on with the offensive line, is it more about Riley Leonard's existing injury, or is it more about concern with the offensive line? I don't know. Because I feel like everyone's kind of got their own little angle that they're working with some of these questions, and that's fine. But I'm totally in. He's going to get out of that without an injury. Totally in on it. Andre, we in or we out? Having Tosh Baker now allows the line to be more cohesion now, but you still can develop the other young tackles. So if he does struggle, maybe he can rotate players in or just replace him later. In or out on that?
I'm in on that. I think that's probably the path that they are taking for the most part. I think that they have faith that Tosh Baker's been in the system, knows what he's doing, that kind of stuff. It will allow the younger tackles to develop. The only part that I might be out on is the replacing him later if he doesn't do what he's supposed to be doing. I just don't know if they're willing to put a true freshman at left tackle. Maybe they are, and maybe I'm talking out one ear, but I feel like they're going to ride Tosh Baker regardless. But either way, it is going to allow the younger guys to develop, which which is a good thing, obviously. So I'm going to say I'm in on it. And I just don't know that they will ever be at a place where they're like, he's struggling too much. Let's put in a true freshman. I don't see him doing it.
Yeah. The question is always going to be, no matter how much somebody might struggle, the question is still, because when somebody sees a guy who's out there on the field struggle, make a mistake, whatever, the automatic knee jerk is get the next guy in. He can't be any worse.
Yeah, he can.
But a lot of times he can be. Right.
A
lot of times he can be. And that's
my
why
favorite. Yeah.
He's not out there to begin with.
That's my favorite parent response too. Like when their kid's not playing and they look at the guy who's playing in front of them, like, well, he can't be any worse than that kid. Like, well, you haven't seen him at practice.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
and
it.
I'm not saying that's this case, but like that's my favorite line. Well, he can't be any worse than what you got out there.
But look, 2021, different offensive line coach, different head coach even. So, but, you've got a smart guy like Mike Denbrock. You've got a smart head coach. You've got a smart offensive line. Like if Tosh Baker is out there and, looks like he is just not cutting it. And again, like there's nothing right now that says that he won't, other than a couple of games 3 years ago that everyone is worried about. I've got to think that he has made improvement since then. Again, otherwise it's like, what are you even staying in? What? I just don't think that they would keep him around for 3 years if he hadn't shown improvement since then. And I just think that if he's not showing that he can cut it, that they make a move at some point. If they think that the next guy can give them some kind of upgrade there.
Yeah.
Polly 1029, Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love combined a total over 2,000 rushing and receiving yards this season. We in or we out on that? Rushing and receiving.
Yeah,
so total yards.
I think I'm in on that. I mean, I know I'm the guy that projects way too high as stats, and I understand that. I think that Jeremiah Love is going to be around the 1,200 mark when it comes to rushing and receiving both, right? So maybe like an 800, 400 kind of a deal. And so that means that Jadarian Price only needs about 800 yards of total offense when it comes to rushing and receiving. I could see that being a possibility. So I will tentatively be in on this. And if this does occur, man, this offense is going to be so friggin' good. So good.
So last year, Audric Estime and Jeremiah Love combined for 1,944 yards. They were 56 yards shy of that together. Now, what's interesting about that is together, they only had a little over 200 receiving yards. Like, I think that Jeremiah Love should easily top 200 receiving yards this season, and Jadarian Price could be in, right around that 200 yard, receiving alone. And these are going to be the top two run the ball candidates. So I'm in on this.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in on this because we're talking about total yards. rushing and receiving, like because you could see each of them. I'm saying floor, each of them around 700 yards. So that's 1,400 right there. So like if Love has 200, that gets you to 1,600 right there. I don't think Price will have 400 receiving yards. But again, that's on the low side. Like if you're just saying 700 rushing yards.
I think Love's going to have
and I think
more than 200 too over the course of the year.
Yeah, and again, I'm setting the numbers low just because of what the guys had last year. I think in this offense that there's going to be a much greater chance for them to top those numbers.
Yeah, that's a good number though. Like I feel like that's a really good over/under number at 2,000 for these two guys. I do. That's a really good number. Made me think about it.
Yep. Yeah, USMA 87 says because they didn't give Estime the ball in the second half against Clemson. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then, Estime comes out in the short yardage situations. Jabron Payne kind of chews up some of those yards as well. So I think both of them. I think they'll easily top 2,000. I think so. Okay, so this is two-pronged here from Law Dog. We in or we out. Tosh Baker will start at left tackle against Texas A&M, and he will give up less than 1.5 sacks against Texas A&M.
I'm in on both of those, to be honest with you. I don't know that he's going to give up 2 sacks. That's a lot. I don't know that they might give up a couple sacks in the game, but I don't think they're both going to be on Tosh Baker. So I will be in on both. He's definitely going to start. That was an easy one. And the second one, maybe it's a little bit harder, but I'm in on both.
Yeah, I'm going to go in on both as well. I was looking at a comment here, and I need to star it so I don't lose track of it. I'm going to go in as well. Tosh Baker will start at left tackle. That is a virtual lock. I think the only question mark in terms of who the starting 5 will be against Texas A&M is the left guard at this point, because Joe Rudolph said this week that it's still Coogan and Spindler are still going back and forth. And I would think that they would want to have that solidified fairly soon because of the whole, you've got Tosh Baker out there at left guard, and Joe Rudolph has talked about, like this guy plays better next to this guy, and this guy plays better next to this guy. Those factors went into the decision to who was starting where when it came to the Sun Bowl last year. So I think that they would want to have that left guard, figured out pretty soon. So I'm definitely in on that. And then Baker gives up less than 1.5 sacks. I'm in on that as well. Again, I would say one at the most. I just feel like everyone thinks like it's going to be a free run to the quarterback with Tosh Baker out there. I don't think it's going to look like, because if that's what it was going to look like, they wouldn't be as confident as they are right now in him being out there. They're not just going to let's just throw this guy out there and beat ourselves over the head. And, we want to look as bad as possible and just let guys have free runs at the quarterback. Because even if he's having issues, whatever they might be, you've got a mobile quarterback like Riley Leonard.
Right.
Yep. He's going to help you avoid some of that stuff.
Agreed. I think the better number would be like pressures. You know what I mean? Is, over under 5.5 pressures, that kind of a thing. I think that might be a better barometer for how well Tosh has played, because I do think Riley Leonard will have an opportunity to escape some of that.
USMA 87 and says, which side does the stud defensive line player line up? I mean, they typically
it's both.
They're going to move them around all over the place
because it's based on strength. And so just like Notre Dame, right? One
strong
guy
side, weak side.
There you go. So it'll be both. He'll have a chance to pick on both guys.
So I wasn't sure what Shaquille Oatmeal, who's in the chat, by the way, and had the question with his own logo. We should have unapproved and trash access.
What does that mean?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Shaq, if you can help us out with that. I'm not sure exactly.
Trash access.
What that means.
Well, if anybody wants that.
Stymie, bringing knowledge. Leonard was sacked 29 times over 3 years at Duke. Over half of those in 22, only 6 and 21, 7 and 23. The 7 and 23 is a high number, but again, he didn't have a great offensive line last year. He had the one guy that ended up getting drafted, but other than that, he didn't have a great offensive line last year. So like the seven sacks in the games that he played in is a pretty high, like if you multiplied that out over the course of the season, like he was on pace to get sacked more, but he doesn't have anywhere near the quality of offensive linemen in front of him as he has.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
that's the biggest thing. I mean, look, you can have all the angst that you want about Notre Dame's offensive line. They're still better than Duke's offensive line.
Right.
So you got to take that into account. I believe our boy Shaquille Oatmeal is referring to all the access that you have on the Champions Lounge. The trash, spam, unapproved.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Gotcha.
So not the average Joe doesn't have that kind of access.
Oh, I see. So like because we're admins, we have like the extra things that you can
the extra green things. Yeah.
Makes sense now.
Now it does make sense. I was like, trash. What are you talking about?
The ball peen is here.
Ball
peen Shillelagh. Okay, so he's got a couple. First, how Riley Leonard is able to handle quarterback pressures will be a key factor in whether Notre Dame outscores Texas A&M in the opener. We in or we out on that?
I'm in. I mean, he's going to be super important because he's going to be sliding protections. He's going to be literally avoiding pressure at times. He's going to be RPOing, which will be directly, based on the pressures that he's getting. 100% in on that one, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's one of the reasons that you went to the transfer portal again and brought in a guy with the experience of Riley Leonard for that kind of intangible, the clock in his head and his ability to move in and out of the pocket and when to take off when he needs to, all those different things. So for sure, because again, we expect A&M's front to be the strength of their defense. So that's going to be a big key. I'm definitely in on that. So then the other one from Ballpeen in the opener, Jadarian Price ends up with more snaps than Jeremiah Love. In or out on that?
I think I'm still out on that. I believe Love is still going to be the 1A choice, but I also think there's a chance that they play the hot hand depending on who that could be. But in the opener, I think the plan is going to be to have Jeremiah Love get the majority of the snaps, and so I'll be out on that.
I'm out on it as well. We went into the Sun Bowl thinking it was going to be Jeremiah Love, and it started off being Jeremiah Love, and he wasn't quite able to be as physical as he needed to be as a runner, and Jadarian Price obviously picked up the slack, running for over 100 yards. But Love has bulked up that frame in a good way. He's stronger now. He's more physical now. So I'm out on that one. Price ending up with more snaps. I'm out on that.
Nice.
Carlos says he has confidence that we have an offensive coordinator smart enough to leave a back end to help with protection if needed. And this is part of it as well. It's not just the offensive line. Like anytime you talk about sacks and that kind of stuff, and like you hear Dylan McCullough talk about it, and I think that sometimes fans can, you don't think about things like pass pro, for example, and they feel really good with their running backs, with their pass protection and their blitz pickup, because that is one of the non-negotiables for Dylan McCullough. As a running back, if you're going to get on the field, you better be able to pass protect. And I know that he really likes what Jeremiah Love brings in that aspect. And it sounds like the freshmen are coming along as well, but he really likes right now what Jeremiah Love can bring. And so, like if you kind of spin it back to what Ballpeen's talking about with snaps, depending on flow of the game and how things are going, that's potentially more times that Jeremiah Love will need to be out there if he is indeed like at the top of the list in terms of pass protection.
I like it.
Okay. 3rd and 7 duo. We in or we out? Riley Leonard throws 2 touchdowns, walks one in, Price has one rushing touchdown. Love has one rushing touchdown and one receiving, and Notre Dame wins
Good
38-20.
Lord.
I'm assuming he means Texas A&M. This is a lot of prop bets for a game that's like
Wow.
23 days away, a little more than 3 weeks at this point.
So 5 touchdowns and apparently a field goal as well, if my math is accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 5 touchdowns and a field goal, 38-20. That would be amazing. Can you imagine the hype that would be going down if that was the case? Holy smokies. I think that's a little aggressive. I mean, could I see it happening? You could, the offense could snowball and score a bunch of points, and you could see a brand new defense on a brand new team with a new coach kind of thing kind of implode a little bit. I mean, I could see that. Honestly, the most unrealistic thing, in my opinion, about this entire thing is I don't think A&M has a prayer scoring 20.
That's what I was looking at. The 20 points I don't think is going to happen.
No, I don't either.
And I'm not going to be surprised if Notre Dame's defense scores a touchdown in this game.
Fair.
So like, even if I'm still a little hesitant to say Notre Dame is going to be hitting really high over 30, but if that happens, it's going to be because the defense gives them a couple of big plays in that game. So I'm going to be out on this. That's a lot of touchdowns for the offense to be coming up with. But I like the optimism, but I think the defense is going to be more involved, and I don't see them giving up 20 points unless it's, like a, blowout type touchdown late in the game or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm out on all of this happening, but just as a score, I think it's possible. I don't think I would predict it, though.
From Joe, we in or we out? The next game Notre Dame plays in an NFL stadium should be Arrowhead Stadium. And of course, I assume, he means like the next one they schedule, obviously, because they're playing Lambeau next year. They're playing down there in Atlanta this year. So they've obviously got a couple of NFL stadiums lined up this season. So what do you think? He also says bonus if it's against Nebraska, Kansas, or Kansas State.
Well, we know that you'd be in on this, especially if it was against Kansas. That'd be a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
So
even though the last time Notre Dame played Kansas, it was not fun for Kansas.
Well, that's
it was either 90. I think that was in 1999 was the last time.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Hey, Kansas on the up, baby. We did the Big 12 preview. I'm all in on Kansas.
All right.
Brian wasn't. I am. So
is he more in on Kansas State than Kansas?
Yeah,
is that where he's going?
Big time. Yeah.
Easy to buy that hype train, but
he's in on it.
Be ready when the Jayhawks beat the Wildcats this season. I'm calling that right now.
He is of the opinion that your quarterback.
Jalen Daniels.
Jalen, thank you.
It's very close. It's very similar, yeah.
Can't stay healthy. And if that is the case, then Kansas will struggle. If he stays healthy, they'll be really good.
Yeah, he just had an injury all of last season that he just wasn't able to come back from. Obviously. Yeah. Now, I mean, that is a concern because like you talk about injury history, he's been more injury prone and that kept him out. I mean, that's legit. If he can't stay healthy, then they're going to be in a much worse situation than they were in last year. I would agree with that.
I'm just so neutral on the NFL stadium thing. Like I don't care. I just don't care. I don't know that I've ever heard Arrowhead Stadium be a thing outside of on this show. And both
you mean Brian, like as a destination, to play
like
kind of thing?
As a possibility. I've heard both you and Brian say that you would love to go see a game at Arrowhead Stadium with Notre Dame playing in it. I think that would be cool. But I'm going to say I'm out in the definitive that it is the next game that Notre Dame plays in an NFL stadium.
Yeah, because like that part of the country just has not driven any real interest for Notre Dame, it seems like.
And that's a really good point from a recruiting standpoint. And do you need to get into that area? Like, is that really where Notre Dame needs to play?
Right. I think you're better off like Houston. They've been to San Antonio before. Like Houston or Dallas still make, Arlington, whatever, still make a lot of sense because of the fact that of the Texas recruiting hotbed and getting into Texas more and that kind of thing. So I would love it, but I'm probably out just because it doesn't seem like it's been a priority for Notre Dame to get to that.
Yeah.
Because from either a recruiting standpoint, like that area is just not a recruiting hotbed by any means. And from an alumni standpoint, there are Notre Dame alums everywhere. But again, because the population is so much more thin in that part of the country, there's just not as many alums there either. I think that would draw the interest.
Joe Allen, who obviously put this question in, he says, a lot of recruiting out of Green Bay. Well, my answer to that would be Lambeau Field trumps the recruiting because of the history.
Right.
That's why. And it was also part of a home and home with Wisconsin where Soldier Field was also involved.
Right.
So that's part of it as well. It was okay, where can you go that's an NFL stadium that's near you? Wisconsin obviously chose Lambeau. So that would be the difference.
And at the time they signed that contract with Wisconsin was a better program. They could still end up being, good again, but they've kind of taken a few steps down, the rungs of the ladder over the last few years since they signed that contract. Because it's probably been like 10 years since they, 8 or 10 years or something like that since they actually signed that deal. And I'm not saying every place they go is you're getting into a recruiting hotbed, but you're like, they signed that deal. Chicago was one. That's a recruiting emphasis for Notre Dame, but they got to play at Soldier Field and they're going to get to play at Lambeau, and both of those get to be Shamrock Series games.
Right.
So like Notre Dame gets to control the TV and all of that stuff. So that's why it worked out, and that's part of it as well, because the way all these TV contracts are worked, the opponents of these different Shamrock Series game typically have to be from outside whatever the predominant conference is in that area. Like when they went to Arlington, for example, it was Arizona State because they were in the Pac-12 at that point. Like you couldn't play a Big 12 team there because then the Big 12's TV partner would get the precedent there. Just like they had to play Army and Washington State the two times they went to San Antonio. It's like all these, like who the main conference is in the area that they're playing these games dictate some of these decisions as well from a TV standpoint in terms of who you can play, where you can play it, all that different kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff there. Again, Joe, I would love to see him play at Arrowhead, but seems like they might have already played there. If that was like, I would love to see him play a game in Seattle as well, for that matter. In whatever the Seahawks stadium. I can never remember the name of that for some reason,
it's had so many, to be honest with you. But yeah.
Domer Grizz, Mike Denbrock's preference for zone runs will make it easier for, obviously, I believe he means Riley Leonard, to see the field this year.
No, I think he means Gerby Lambert.
Okay. So I wasn't even thinking along those lines. Okay.
Yeah, he means Gerby Lambert.
I thought he meant literally like see the field.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay. What do you think about that? So it makes it easier for Gerby Lambert to see the field because of Denbrock's preference for zone runs.
I'm out because I don't think they're going to give him an opportunity to see the field, to be perfectly honest with you. Based on what we saw, I just don't think it matters. I don't think it's as easy as a scheme fit or anything like that. I don't think that makes much of a difference for him having an opportunity to see the field. So I'm going to be out.
Yeah. I'm out on there as well. Again, I wasn't looking at the question right, but the guy is third string right now. I think that at this point, it's going to take an injury / some other factor playing in for Gerby to get out there this year. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. This one from Tyler. We in and we out. Notre Dame will be the better program by the time of the Notre Dame Bama series.
Ooh, when is that? That's a few years from now, right?
That begins in 2029. Notre Dame hosts Alabama.
Good Lord.
In 5 years, and they visit Alabama in the following season, 2030?
That is a really good question, Tyler. I love this question, to be perfectly honest with you. I love the trajectory of Notre Dame. Alabama's not going to take much of a step back. I think they got a really good coaching staff. I am very interested to see what the next couple of years look like for Alabama. But I think, as we say here at Irish Breakdown, I feel like the gap has closed a little bit. And so I will – the better program – I'm going to be in on it just because I want it to happen. But I do believe by the time – if Marcus – here's the caveat. If Marcus Freeman is still the head coach at Notre Dame in that time, I feel like those programs will have come a heck of a lot closer, if not like right here.
Yeah, I'm going to go in on it. Again, assuming Marcus Freeman is still in charge, and because if he is still in charge 5 years from now, then that is what, year 8, year 9 that he's going into, essentially. So he's not going to be around that long if the program's not going in the direction that it's supposed to be. And as good as Caleb DeBoer has been, I'm still, look, I want to see him do it on his own at Alabama, because Nick Saban, when you look at the last, let's just go 30 years, it's like Gene Stallings, Nick Saban, the only two coaches to have any real success at Alabama. Stallings obviously won a national championship himself, and then, Nick obviously took it to another level, but there have been a lot of other coaches at Alabama who have failed in between. So I want to see DeBoer run this thing on his own down there at Alabama. I don't think it's just a matter of, it's the SEC and, all this, like Nick Saban essentially helped make the new SEC. He helped make the SEC currently into what it is. So I want to see DeBoer have some actual success of his own down there. Like come back to me in 3 years when we see, after he's, I know he's doing a good job in recruiting right now and all that stuff, but I'm gonna hedge toward Notre Dame in this. I like it. I'm in.
Yeah. Way to be positive. I like it. I like where your head's at.
All right. From Irish BS, we in or we out. Notre Dame will have more wins than all but 3 Big Ten and SEC schools
combined.
Notre Dame will have more wins than all but 3 Big Ten and SEC schools combined. Than all but 3. So are we saying that like the teams at the bottom of the conference, like Notre Dame will have more wins than them?
I'm very confused by the combined part of this. More wins than all but 3 Big Ten and SEC schools. I don't know how to answer this because I'm not exactly sure where we're going with this. If they're saying that Notre Dame is going to have more total wins than, the top of the Big Ten and the SEC, like 11, and, who's going to have 11, who's going to have 10, like that kind of thing, then, yeah, I'll buy that. I'm just not sure about the combined part. So I don't know. I want to, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm trying to look.
Like Ant VR says, out of both conferences, only 3 teams will have more wins than Notre Dame. Now, okay, if that's the question, then I'll buy it, and I will sit like,
okay,
if let's say Notre Dame's 11-1, so how many teams are going to have equal to, or I guess they would have to be 10 wins or less, right? Or because it says more than, right? So they have to have more. So if you look at the top echelon of,
okay, yeah. So he's saying they'll have more wins than all but 3 teams. So he's basically saying the 3 best teams,
right,
from the Big Ten in the SEC.
So like, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, are they going to have those would be the 3, I suppose, that might have more wins than Notre Dame potentially?
Yeah.
Or equal to or more, right? 11 or more. I think that's possible, so I'll buy it. What the heck?
I'm going to buy it as well.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Got to use the right terminology. I'm in.
Irish Hawk 31. We in or we out. Gerby Lambert is closer to redshirting this year than starting at left tackle.
Oh, Irish Hawk 31. Nailed it. I'm in on that. I absolutely think that.
Definitely in.
Yeah, based on what Joe Rudolph was saying, I'm absolutely in on that.
We in or we out? This one from Leon Fart. We in or we out? We'll see at least 12 different players score a rushing or receiving touchdown this year. I am in on this. 19 total players scored offensively for Notre Dame last year. So this is a big in.
You cheated. You looked this up early. Okay.
I did.
All right. But if that was the case from last
look,
year.
What would we be doing otherwise? We'd be pulling up the stats and we go,
right.
Okay, how
you're
100%.
Scored?
So that's why I went and looked. So
I didn't
want to come into this flying blind.
I think you nailed it. I'm totally in on that then. Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Stymie stirring the pot. He says Tyler Buckner's going to be one.
No, he won't. I can't say that because maybe he gets in on like senior night or something.
Fake field goal. It could happen.
He wasn't even the holder the other day, was he?
Well, he's been kind of dinged up. So
Okay,
I don't know how much that played into it.
That is a good point.
I didn't see his quad wrapped, but he could still he might not be able to bend the knee and all that kind of stuff.
He can still sling it, baby.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
K-Shaw 12. Vince will be more nervous for Dylan's first field goal attempt of the season over Tosh Baker lining up at left tackle against Texas A&M. In or out?
That's a huge in. I about crap myself every time he lines up for a kick, whether it's a PAT or a field goal. 100%. So in on that, it's not even funny because I have no control over Tosh Baker as left tackle at Notre Dame. I had a lot to do with the other one. So I'm in.
I had forgotten that he still has like a senior year of,
oh yeah,
high school football to play after all these recruiting things going on this summer. That's right. Yep. I'm like, hold it. Isn't he a punter? But yeah, he's a kicker still.
He was the kicker all last year. And this year he's also adding punting. He's the starting punter and the starting kicker. So even more opportunities for me to be nervous and upset and everything else. So it's awesome. It's fantastic.
In or out on Sean Sevillano getting some meaningful snaps this year?
Meaningful snaps doesn't just mean playing. It means playing when it matters. And I will be out on that. I don't think that will be the case. I think he's just a little bit too buried for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I just put up a story at irishbreakdown.com. I think it was posted this morning. It was either this morning or last night. And it's basically Al Washington going through, and we're going to talk some defensive line here in rapid fire in a little bit, but he's basically going through the top 11, 12 guys. And I think Sean Sevillano is at least right below the cut there right now, along with like Devin Houston and Brennan Vernon, I think are both right below that as well. Washington did talk this week about how Sevillano has lost a bunch of weight and, he's in better shape and all that kind of stuff. But, he's essentially just talked about how those three guys specifically still physically developing, still, sort of figuring things, out with technique and scheme and all those different kind of things. And there are just guys in front of them who are a little bit stronger and doing better right now, a little bit more experience. So I don't think we're going to see much in the way of meaningful snaps for Sevillano this season. That doesn't mean he won't see the field maybe in some opportunities in different games, but I don't think that they're necessarily going to be, high leverage type snaps that he's going to take. All right, let me see. It looks like I need to go to the next page. I know Tommy said that he got a question in late. I'm always curious to see what it's going to be when it's Tommy.
Oh boy.
Oh, man. So here we go. Bracketed cover 3. The new helmet communication system will benefit the Notre Dame offense in terms of tempo and catching the defense out of position. In or out on that?
No, I'm out on that. I don't think it's going to have that kind of effect. I really don't, especially with the subbing rules and everything else.
They can
It'll be-
still hold the ball. You still have to wait for,
I mean, if
the
Notre Dame
offense
subs, then
yeah.
the defense gets a chance to sub. If they're not going to sub, then obviously the defense doesn't get a chance to sub. But you could have gotten that information from the sideline, I think, quicker than the helmet communication, because the helmet communication only goes to the quarterback, and then he has to disseminate it
Still
to
has
everybody
to call the
else
play on the field.
I think it's faster to look over to the sideline for everybody to see the play all at the same time. So I'm out.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be an advantage from a tempo standpoint either. And it's not that a lot of NFL teams are out there running a lot of tempo all the time, but you haven't seen, the NFL has been using this for a long time, and there's really no extra benefit, I don't think.
Right. I mean, it's more of a benefit, obviously, if you're huddling.
Yeah.
So I don't see that as a benefit.
He also says the Notre Dame linebacker room is the most well-recruited position since Marcus Freeman's arrival in South Bend, including as defensive coordinator. In or out on that?
I think you could make that case. Yeah, I think you could make that case because, there are other talented positions on the field, but from a straight recruiting standpoint, from high school to college, so transfer portal doesn't count, I would say it's either linebacker or offensive line.
I mean, offensive line has stayed really consistent.
Yep.
They still don't miss there. What do you think about running back?
Yeah, good call. Guinea pig clips.
I think that's a good one. I think
good one.
After offense, and I mean, look, quarterback recruiting's gone pretty well.
Also, it has.
Obviously, there's a big, drama in terms of what's going to happen with Juice and all that stuff. But as of right now, it's been recruited really well, 3 cycles in a row.
If you go back to Marcus Freeman's tenure, though, when he started, I don't know that quarterback recruiting was awesome. That's the only reason I didn't say quarterback. You know what I mean? Yeah. So his first year was 21, right? And so who was the quarterback in 21? Was it Buckner?
Cone was the starting quarterback.
But who's the recruited quarterback? He's a transfer. He doesn't count.
The recruited quarterback would have been, was it Angeli that year? Or was it Minchie?
It wouldn't have been Minchie.
Was Minchie 22?
Minchie was...
Yeah, he would have been 22 because that was last.
Well, no, because this year Carr signed, so Carr's 24.
I mean, well, it's gone.
Carr's 24. Minchie was 23.
Minchie 23, and Jelly would be 22.
Jelly was 22.
And then what was it? Drew Pine or was it Clark?
See, the top, so whoever it was and Jelly, that's not great. You know what I mean? And
right,
so,
but do the 3 or even the 4 does Kenny Minchie, CJ Carr,
Noah Grubbs,
Deuce Knight, Noah Grubbs. Does that outweigh?
Does that make up for
whatever came at the start of that?
Yeah, I mean,
when Freeman was still defensive.
You could make the argument. Yeah, you could make the argument. So he says Buckner was 22. No, Buckner.
No, he couldn't
22.
have been because he was the quarterback and he was the backup quarterback with the package in 21. So he would have been.
He was the 21, right?
Yeah. I guess he probably
20. I don't remember.
Bad.
That's how much I follow recruiting.
So the bottom line, though, is the quarterback recruiting is a lot better. So I think that is good. I think running back recruiting is good. Offensive line remains at a consistent level. And even cornerback is better.
For sure. No, quarterback has gotten leaps and bounds better. Like I said, it would just be the first 2 of his tenure at Notre Dame that would be iffy. But since then, it's gotten fantastic.
Yeah. Oops.
So Buckner was 21. We're getting some confirmation from the people.
Okay.
So there you go.
Tommy says, it's Olympic season. We in or we out on people earning their living in their chosen sport here in the United States, but playing for their country of origin.
Yeah, I'm in on it because that's their country of origin. That's where they were born. I mean, I have no problem with, there are plenty of people that have studied overseas and come back to the United States So why should, from an academic standpoint, so why should it be any different? American players go over to Europe and play basketball all the time. If they're not good enough for the NBA, I don't care. You should be able to play for your country of origin.
Yeah. And I mean, most of these guys are still residents of their country of origin,
right. Exactly. And I think Joel Embiid had an opportunity to play for 2 other countries, France, and then another one, as well as the United States. And he decided to play for the US. And okay, that's his prerogative. I do think some of the rules about some of these people playing for other countries is a little on the skimpy side, but if you were born in that country, then you should be able to play for that country, right? It shouldn't be like, well, your dad was born in that country, so you can play for that country. Like, I think that's a little sketchy in my personal opinion, but I mean, it's whatever.
Well, look, because the opposite of this is you do have people who were born and raised here in the United States
playing for other countries
because of what you're talking about.
Exactly.
It's like grandma was born in like Italy, so you get to go play for the Italian team. I think Mike Piazza was one of those guys, if I remember right.
World Baseball Classic or whatever. Yeah.
And like Lauren Ebo who played for Notre Dame women's basketball, not this past season, but the season before. She's from Washington, D.C., but she's playing for Nigeria in the Olympics because of one of those kind of
right. That's just
so.
That's like I said, that's a little bit too much, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for me.
And obviously the reason they do it is because
they want more.
Most of those countries have a hard time,
right.
Getting the caliber of athlete,
which I totally understand. I totally get it. And usually a player that is making that choice is not really affecting, the medals or anything like, you know what I mean? And so, hey, if you're going to do it so that you can have some more competition, then awesome, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, my grandma was born in Puerto Rico, so that means I guess I could play for Puerto Rico. Is that how that works? You know what I mean? So I don't know. There's a lot of funny stuff there.
You and Juan Epstein probably never
signed
saw
Epstein's mother.
Yeah,
signed Epstein's mother. I know. Welcome back, Kata.
All right,
Mr. Kata.
Salty. I love the IB happy hour motto. We talk about sports, all sports except recruiting. I mean,
that's what we do. Sorry, we're not recruitniks, man, and we never will be.
That's right.
We have full-time jobs.
Too many other things to deal with. We pay guys specifically to cover and talk about recruiting. So it's just the way it is. I think we've held our own as much as we can in terms of a recruiting talk, in sort of recent months. We're not going to be the experts, but I think that I think we've followed it enough that we can at least talk somewhat about it, right? It's like just because I can't remember every quarterback in each recruiting class. Come on, man. Come on. All that said, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
I forgot about rapid fire. Let's roll, baby. Let's go.
I know. We've been here for a while,
man.
Tonight, like we have just been rolling here tonight. So here's Notre Dame defensive line coach Al Washington talking about the depth we'll see from his position group. Whoops. This season, I just hit something, and here we go.
Looking at 11 to 12,
right? Yeah,
and they all got to factor in, And I was saying this downstairs. The way college football is now, it's a long year.
Yeah.
So like you can't wear guys out. A guy can't play 70 snaps a game for 8-9 games. Right. They'll break down. So, we're really, really intentional about developing that next layer, and there can't be a drop off. And the guys know that, and we're transparent. I tell them straight up, I say, hey, this is what the plan is, so we need all of you. And so every day, and they've come out with great enthusiasm.
So again, that's Al Washington. And my question to you, Vince, is does your enthusiasm for Notre Dame's defensive line outweigh whatever concerns you have for the offensive line?
Ooh, I'm very enthusiastic about the defensive line. That is for sure. But no, it does not outweigh my concerns for the offensive line. I think I have more questions about the offensive line, not necessarily concerns. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'll all get figured out and they'll be fine moving forward. but I have more answers about the defensive line than I do about the offensive line. So I'm going to say no to your question, but I am very excited about the defensive line.
If I'm going to go just from a number standpoint, I have to say yes, because like I think that they're going to throw. There's basically going to be two lines out there that I think like each of them could potentially start. So you're talking about 8 guys right off the top, and so like if I'm going into Texas A&M with 8 guys who I know could potentially be starters going up against the Aggies down there and all the heat and everything else, and then I throw in a few extra guys to go along with it to throw another wave. Adam, I am just my enthusiasm would be boundless for that. I think that this is going to be one of the best, especially from a total depth standpoint. I think this is going to be one of the best defensive lines, if not the defensive line that we've seen here at Notre Dame in a long time. So I have to say that do I have concerns for the offensive line? Yes, but I'm not like to the point where like it is so debilitating that I just think that this is going to be horrible out there, when it comes to the offensive line. I think that it is still going to be good. I think that it is going to be a work in progress when you lose a guy like Jagasaw after you already lost 2 NFL tackles. I think that I think it is going to be a work in progress, but I don't think that it is going to be like patchwork and it is just going to be hand-wringing on a week-to-week basis. I think that ultimately it'll gel and it'll be fine. So my enthusiasm for the defensive line does top whatever concerns I have for the offensive line. Okay, so Irish defensive coordinator Al Golden discussed what his defensive approach to taking on Texas A&M's offense could look like, considering former Kansas State offensive coordinator Colin Klein is now running the Aggies defense.
Definitely a balance. The personnel is obviously the A&M film. Kansas State is more philosophy, and then seeing where they go. What does the O-line coach like to do? What does the wide receiver coach like to do? What does the running back coach? And, it's that confluence that comes together in the opening game. So this is the second year in a row. We didn't know what we were going to see. Everybody said, you're going to see this from Navy. We didn't see anything from Navy the first 15 plays that we thought we were going to see. So it is what it is. So how do you handle it? You manage your own variables, right? You keep your variables quiet and rely on your fundamentals, and then hopefully have enough leadership to withstand anything that you could not have practiced early and then just move forward.
So, Vince, how do you think having a new offensive coordinator on the other side impacts things going into week 1?
Oh, it definitely impacts things. It forces you to watch game film from teams that you're not playing. You know what I mean? I guarantee that they're watching Kansas State film and all of that, and then you've got to kind of figure out, okay, these are the schemes that they're going to run, but here's the personnel that they have, and so how is that going to be different, and things of that nature. And so it is very tough, and going into game 1 you get a lot of that no matter what level you're on, because so many things can change, especially at the college level. But you try to get as much data as you can without overdoing it, but you've got to watch film from where they were last. I mean, that's a absolute must. And so it just adds another layer of stuff that you got to do.
And I think really even the first 3 weeks of the season, you kind of continue to see that. Like that's
Sure.
The way it's been the last couple of years, it seems like, where you're just like they're kind of holding things back. They know Notre Dame is coming up on the schedule. They're holding things
Sure.
back. They're not going to show you everything. And it becomes, you kind of have to adjust on the fly on the sideline. But that was something that Al Golden talked about when he was hired, was as a linebacker coach in the NFL, it's not just game to game. Like it's series to series. You're calling guys over and you're making constant adjustments over there on the sidelines. And I think that he has done a really good job of it, because I think that, they're, especially in these openers like this, like he said, Navy hit him with some stuff because remember they had a new coach and everything last year, and they were kind of throwing, everything but the kitchen sink at him early on last year. And so that there'll be some adjustment because now the athletes are a little bit bigger and a little bit
Sure.
better. I do think it's interesting that in a parallel universe, Colin Klein could be the Notre Dame offensive coordinator right now.
And not terribly parallel. I mean, it was a very close thing
Right.
happening,
Right. I do wonder, because of that, because like whatever background and that Marcus Freeman was doing when he was thinking about an offensive coordinator. Like, does he at least have some Colin Klein material cataloged, maybe, that they spent some time looking at?
Oh, I'm sure.
Season.
Like
when he was evaluating, this is what this guy does as an offensive coordinator, those kind of
absolutely. And it adds more to your prep, because not only do you have to watch film of the scheme that Colin Klein had at Kansas State, but you also have to watch film of Texas A&M for personnel. So it doubles kind of what you have to do, but that's why you have analysts. Like, that is their job, is to break down that film and figure out, that kind of stuff. And then Al Golden comes in and makes the ultimate decisions, obviously.
There you go. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Riley Leonard and Kevin Bauman are on the College Football Comeback Player of the Year watch list.
It's interesting, because I wouldn't have thought about either one of those guys being on that list. I mean, we've been waiting for Kevin Bauman to come back for like 3 years, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure he's even going to be back at all. So believe it when I see it kind of a situation.
We know Riley Leonard's going to be back.
And I'm cool with him being on the list, I suppose, because he basically had a season-ending injury last year for all intents and purposes. And what he's able to do at Notre Dame will appear to be a major comeback if he does what we think he's going to do. So I'm cool with it. I'm down with that.
I think the most interesting thing to me is apparently they've been giving this award out for 6 years. It's been around since 2018,
Really?
and I didn't know it existed. So
I'm so used to the NFL version, I guess, as opposed to the college version.
Exactly. But you're right about Kevin Bauman, because, like, man, you talk about a guy who's had bad luck. He just continues. Right. And hopefully it goes well for him this year.
And I don't know anything as far as like how they're going to do the roster management and everything, but I believe they're at least one player over the limit at the moment. And he's like a prime example of somebody who might retire due to injury. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know anything. I don't know what their plan is or whatever, but if they have to get down, he's got to be a finalist for one of those, retirement due to injury spots. So
very true.
The fact that he's on that list is kind of nuts.
Good point. I would think that if Riley Leonard has anywhere near the kind of year that we think that he's going to have, though, that he would be like a runaway winner of this thing when it's all said and done.
Good call.
With the profile that he's going to have. So Notre Dame. Oh, never mind. Here. Bruce Feldman put out his annual Freaks list, and Irish defensive tackle Riley Mills is number 27. Wide receiver Bo Collins is number 36 on the list. This is the second time Mills has made the list, by the way. So my question is, which current guys on Notre Dame's roster might we maybe see on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list next year?
This is a really tough one, because I don't like. You're gonna have to help me with what the criteria to be on the Freaks list is. You know what I mean? Like, what's the criteria?
Hang on just a second. So I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And I'm going to tell you if it kind of, the Freaks list started in 2025. I mean, basically it's like athletic testing and all that kind of stuff is what goes into it. I was hoping that he kind of spelled out the criteria. It's like, I need to scroll here and find one of these guys so I can give you an example of the stuff.
That's fine. I've got a couple answers for you. So,
so like here's what he says about Riley Mills, for example. Irish have a lot of talent on their defense, and Mills and another freaky. So Mills has a vertical jump, an impressive 32 inches. He weighs 290 pounds. And it goes on. He squats for 580 pounds. He benches about the same as he used to, 445 pounds. So it's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's a combination. Like he vertical jumped 38.5 inches and broad jumped 10.2.5. So it's like a lot of that kind of stuff that goes into it. The vertical jumps, how much you can lift, all those different kind of things that kind of go into it.
the first two guys I thought about, because I wanted to stay younger, obviously, since this is a future freaks list, nomination. So I stayed in the freshman class, and the two guys that came to mind for me were KVA and Bryce Young. Like, I feel like they could probably test pretty well. And so, but again, I'm not a recruit, Nick, so I don't know what all their testing numbers have been while they were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with their physical stature, with the speed at which they operate at their position, that those are the two guys that I would pick in the younger class.
Bryce Young is a really good one. KVA is one of the first guys who came to mind. Jeremiah Love is another one.
Okay.
For me.
I can see
again,
that.
like not knowing what all, because like they obviously, like vertical jumps and broad jumps and all these different things. It's like, it's not like Notre Dame is giving us that kind of information, and like even how much they bench and squat and all that kind of stuff. But Bruce Feldman gets it because he puts this out and it's in, everyone's interest, to have a guy, show up on these different lists. Javonte Jean-Baptiste was actually on last year's list for Notre Dame as well. I think Bryce Young is a really good one. KVA is a really good one. Like, it was DK mentioning Cam Williams and Gilbert. Like, I was a little bit surprised that Collins showed up on this thing, let alone as high as he was on this thing. But apparently he tests really well also. And let me see if I can scroll and find his numbers here real quick. The former Clemson wide receiver put up some dazzling numbers in the training room this offseason. Vertical jump of 41.5 inches and a broad jump of 10 feet, 11.5. So almost 11-foot broad jump Bo Collins has. So obviously that means explosiveness. And obviously this stuff also tracks well when you're talking about your director of football performance, Lauren Lando, for these guys to have these kind of numbers. So I think that I wouldn't be shocked to see a guy like Greathouse next year, third year in a college program, as athletic and dynamic as he is already. I wouldn't be shocked to see him potentially on this list next year either. So I'll stick with that.
I like it.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Florida International University has announced it will rename its football stadium Pitbull Stadium after entering into a 5-year naming rights deal with the musician of the same name, Pitbull.
Crazy. But I'm cool with it because schools got to figure out a way to make money, man, so that they can compete. And if that, stadiums have been selling naming rights forever and a day, right? And so if Pitbull wants to put his name on a stadium and he's got the money to back it up, then so be it. Like, okay, cool. I
can't be worse than Guaranteed Rate Field, right?
Well, exactly.
Like,
that's the thing. There's some of these stadiums that have horrible names, horrible names. And that very same field used to be called U.S. Cellular Field, and they nicknamed it the Cell.
Yeah.
Like, okay. You know what I mean? So it could have been a heck of a lot worse. I mean, literally every field at my kid's high school has a sponsor. So, I mean,
that's true.
They're doing it at all levels, man. I'm telling you.
I was pretty shocked to see that Pitbull is going to throw out $1.2 million a year to put his name on Florida International's football stadium.
He clearly has too much money. I mean, that's right. I mean, you got that kind of money.
Seriously.
Like, it's not even something that's going to stick. I would rather give $5.5 million, which I believe is going to be the total gift, and have like a building named after me that's actually going to last. Like, it's over after 5 years.
That's true.
No more.
This is just naming rights. Yeah. They could sell it to the highest bidder the next time around.
Here's $5 million. Name the engineering building after me. You know, or whatever.
Like, are they going to play Pitbull songs? Like,
yeah.
You're going to play Timber, when you're walking.
Or like
walking in the gate.
Have like the locker room named after you, or the strength and strength and conditioning building, or the football building, that kind of a thing. And then it actually will remain there for a long time. The only problem I have with naming rights is it goes away,
That's true. That's true. I mean, it gives you a little cachet, though. I guess if you're
I
Florida
guess,
International,
yeah.
Pitbull Stadium. I mean, that's
Kind of cool, I guess.
that's
Yeah.
not bad. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, is Pitbull going to be hanging around? I mean, he lives down there in that area.
He does.
So,
I didn't realize he was connected to them, but hey.
I didn't either.
And I wonder if he shopped this idea around to like multiple Florida schools. You know
Good
what
question.
I mean?
Like where the connection came from. Like,
yeah. Like the
his
Pitbull
idea.
Swamp. We do the Pitbull Swamp. That'd be kind of fun.
The swamp at Pitbull Field or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Did he aim higher? Is this the best he could do?
Right. Like, did he want it to be Hard Rock Stadium,
Right.
where the Hurricanes play? But it's like, well, you have to shell out $5 million a year if you
Right.
want that Pitbull. Like,
Right.
it's not going to happen. So we started off the show talking about Olympics, which made a lot of people happy. We will finish up.
Don't get the ire, man. Jeez.
NBC wants Snoop Dogg to return for future Olympics coverage. Do you buy or sell more Snoop Dogg in your Olympics?
It's a huge buy for me. I've actually really enjoyed watching Snoop do his thing at the Olympics.
Been amazed at how entertaining it is, actually.
I know. I love, first of all, I love the fact he has his own Olympic pin. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's freaking awesome. And he is extremely knowledgeable about a host of sports.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of credit for that. You know what I mean? And like not off the wall, but like, off the beaten path type sports. Like he's learning about these and he can speak intelligently about many of these sports. And he's hanging out with the families and
hanging out with the parents. Yeah.
Like, I dig it, man. I dig Snoop at the Olympics. I do.
Well, and I absolutely do as well. Again, I've been amazed at how, I thought it was just going to be like, okay, you've got Snoop Dogg in your coverage. How good is this actually going to be? But it's just like, he's been a little bit of like, where's Waldo? He's
all
bouncing around, event to event. And, like you said, he's hanging out with the families. He's and not just like interviewing the families. He's literally just
like
sitting
hanging
there
out with them,
with
like,
moms and dads watching their kids perform.
He's like chilling with Caleb Dressel's wife and their new baby. And he give the baby a nickname and everything. And they interviewed Caleb Dressel and he's like, no, he goes, our kid really enjoyed hanging with Snoop. Like he was totally like calm and cool and collected when he was around. He's not usually like that around strangers. He was like that around Snoop, like I feel like maybe NBC hired him in the first place to kind of be what you just said. You know what I mean? Just to, it's kind of a thing, but he is like all in on it. Like, I think they're getting way more than they even bargained for, if you want to put it that way. What I mean?
And the next summer Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles, so it's just a natural fit.
He's a California guy.
He works those. Like, my question is, do they bring him in to do Winter Olympics in 2 years?
Why not?
Would he go to the slopes or to the ice rinks or whatever it happens?
He probably would. I think he needs to be a staple. Him and Mike Tirico, you guys are now the NBC staples for the Olympics.
Yep. It's been a lot of fun. And it's all winding down now. We've only got a couple days left of the Olympics, but he's really added to the entertainment value. Like when they do
time.
It doesn't even have to be studio stuff, but he bounces in the studio every now and then too.
I have to say, I have actually really enjoyed just getting up in the morning and just flipping on the Olympics, and it's just the live. Mm-hmm. They're just bouncing around between all the different stuff, and it's been great. It's kind of revived the summer, like during the day part. Like, I've really enjoyed it.
For sure. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's show. Vince, I appreciate you jumping in kind of on some late notice again tonight.
No problem.
Pitching in, helping out. Always
no problem.
Appreciated.
Jesse will get me back. I have full faith that will happen.
I'm sure you guys will get each other back. And I saw Joe, because I said on the boards, because people have asked before, well, who's hosting the show? So we know, sort of where to direct the question. So I put something on the board saying Vince is hosting, Vince is co-hosting tonight. So plan your questions accordingly. And Joe basically said I was telling people to dumb the questions down.
Wow.
Because you were hosting.
Wow.
Okay. And that was before you shot down his Arrowhead Stadium thing. So
Joe, I know he's not local because he said he lives 3 hours away from Arrowhead.
Omaha. He's in Omaha.
So I'm safe, but come on, Joe. Show me some love.
I know. All right, smash that like button before you leave. Again, we appreciate you being here. Have a good one. We will talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.